And hello and welcome everyone. This is your GM in the Great Barrier, broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy, welcoming you back to a game of Star Trek Adventures Aegis. It's been a little bit since we've played, but we're going to have a log to recap at the top, so you have the opportunity to catch up here with us. Just quick apologies are due for those watching at this point. We are having some very mild technical difficulties with the name portion. For sake of reintroduction, our players, going from top to bottom in the active crew section, there's of course me as your GM in the Great Barrier, Luckless Panda as Colonel Lillian Sharp, uh, Drone as Lieutenant Commander Kiran Patel, uh, Craig as Lieutenant Eula Shira, and Ben as Dr. John Lambeth, and finally we have joining us today uh, Brian as Aleska Romanov, Commander Aleska Romanov, that is. So we'll have these names back on display here in just a moment, and hopefully, if you've been following the archives, then these should all be faces and names you remember quite well, or at least character portraits and names you remember well. But with all of that, we'll fix this en route, and while this is happening, I'll turn it over to our Chief Science Officer for the log today. So, Drone, go ahead and take it away.
Sure thing. Science Officer Star Log, June 5th, 2154. To say our first real excursion into deep space has been unintriguing would be an understatement. We've stumbled upon a true mystery, one that so far defies any attempt at scientific analysis. A paralyzed and empty Earth ship, its systems completely dead, and its crew nearly completely vanished. A harsh, otherwise inhospitable planet that somehow maintains a small area of green fields, rich flora and fauna, and comfortable Earth normal weather, and apparently a dog in the background. And an inexplicable medieval manor house, inhabited by a strange, though so far seemingly hospitable man by the name of Tussaud. In the absence of any more concrete information, my analysis concludes that this Mr. Tussaud is the key to understanding just exactly what is going on here. Otherwise, very little about the situation we currently find ourselves in adds up. ...
Indeed, and it is a succinct explanation for what has happened in the past few days since you arrived in the HD 85512 system. Uh, you arrived in this star system, which hosts a solitary Class K star, an orange dwarf. You had been tracking down the last known whereabouts of the starship Crozier, an older Neptune-class scout, which, as Drone mentioned, was found bereft of power and almost completely absent its crew. The only one remaining seemed to have been long since deceased. The remainder, from what records you have, suggested that they came down to this planet, HD 85512b, a super Earth that is mostly barren, save for the lone habitable part of the planet that you are presently finding yourselves on, um, with no other avenue to pursue, and the the only the answers necessary to determine the fate and whether there are indeed survivors from the Crozier. You've had to come down to the planet, which has been a smooth enough ride. You even encountered some sheep and some very bad puns. Oh, bad memories. But you've encountered a far more pleasant individual, the mysterious Tussaud, an older human-seeming gentleman who has met you outside the manor on the manicured grounds of this location. And after a brief conversation, he has invited you in. And that is where we pick up as the away team enters in. Now, I will start by just double checking because last time our tactical officer had been away at the time. Craig, would you like to introduce a change to the scene and have Shira present on the landing party, or would you prefer to remain aboard ship for now?
Well, everyone else seems to be down on the surface having fun. So, might as well go join them.
Spectacular. With that, hold on, that's a disappointing snap. Um,
Bloody keeping my helmet on, though.
Certainly, certainly. Shira has come down to the surface to join you as well, with a with an EV suit that is very well climate controlled. Um, Colonel, for your part, you don't exactly remember her initially being down there, but here she is. In any case, you the five of you proceed into the manor. Through a set of heavy wooden doors, you find a very well illuminated, slightly cooler area. The outside is a pleasant, temperate for Earth condition situation where the you think that you could have very easily lounged about the day and been perfectly comfortable as is. Uh, with all of that said, you're uh, you find the interior no less comfortable, I would expect. The rooms are fairly well illuminated, mostly by a combination of candle or torchlight that are burning with a very gentle glow. Strategic placement of the windows and sort of unique reflectiveness off some of the stones actually enhances the ambient light further. It somewhat defies the some elements of like what you would expect in more authentic medieval paradigms. The lighting is such that you have a very good sense of the area, and at least for Shira's part, with the EV suit, there would be little need for a flashlight at this point. Um, Not that you needed it
Can
outside, because it was a quite bright and sunny day.
can I get a transporter scan? Sorry, a tricorder scan of the walls just to see if they're constructed of stone or they were constructed in some unusual way or have um, unusual properties.
I would be willing to give you that. I will ask you for a reason and engineering roll. For the most information, I'm going to ask you for a difficulty on the task of 3.
Okay.
Can
Reason engine.
I assess this castle based upon Terran, medieval Terran builds and see like what culture or is it trying to mimic? Like what sort of
Certainly,
castle this is?
certainly. Let me just tend to Romanov's roll first, and
Yeah.
then we can do this. Okay, that is 2 successes from Romanov. So, as far as you can discern, Romanov, the castle does appear to be built of stone materials. These are the types of compounds here do indicate that the material is native to the planet, but it is has been very exactingly done. You'll notice that the blocks are like the material used to construct this castle has been very meticulously arranged. I would say that it is in such a manner that outside of a few elements that are like meant to look a little more organic or essentially as if the tools were or rather something that gives the authentic look, outside of that you would swear that the precision used in other less visible elements of the castle, at least within your sensor range, you'd be convinced that it was done with uh, 22nd century tools, essentially.
Okay.
As far as what could have anything more specific in terms of what could have constructed it, it is difficult for you to assess the precise manufacture. Certainly, what knowledge you might have of the ancient times in which structures of these would have been constructed suggests that obviously they did not have extremely fine tools or indeed sophisticated manufacturing capabilities. Certainly, it would have been a labor intensive process as well, from the mining of the stone towards its construction, elements of maintenance, and so far as you can tell, Tussaud is the only humanoid life form that you've thus far encountered on this planet. So it seems improbable that this was built in any conventional way.
Okay.
Yeah. For your part, uh, Colonel Sharp, I will say, if you want, I don't know necessarily that this would actually have to be a roll, but I suppose if you would like to juice a little bit of momentum, I would ask for a, let's call this command and reason, as you are trying to basically call up uh, historical records.
Yeah. Strategy. I think strategy is the most appropriate for this. Um,
That could be appropriate.
all right, let's roll. 2.
Okay, so that is. I should have said that I would have given you a difficulty 1 task there, and that is 2 successes, so I will allow you 1 momentum. And being that I did not think to say anything beforehand, I will not take away the momentum from the start. I shall be a kind GM and leave you with a very generous pot to start with. So, as far as you can recall, uh, Colonel, this is definitely more in a European style of castle, or something that based on the climate and the architectural influences. Your best guess would put this as something more Western Europe oriented, possibly native to the British Isles. Um, Beyond that, there are different sort of composite elements here of what one, let's say, might think of as a castle. So there might be some mixes of references here, but it's very much, uh, at least very solidly in the realm of what you would guess to be something more of a Western representation.
Okay, but I'm not sure which century, like when it was actually
Oh,
was
you
usable,
you'd probably
or
put it sometime in the. It probably was constructed sometime in Earth's Middle Ages,
okay,
or at least that's the style it might represent. Possibly with
yeah,
some updates that are more
because
a
the
little later on.
castles went from being actual usable defenses to just artsy noble designs that had no real defense capabilities. So I was wondering where in that's at.
That's fair.
Uh,
I can clarify there and say that it's probably, um, with that in mind, it probably tilts toward a later era where the design is less intended for defense and more for an aesthetic, essentially.
right.
There
Okay.
weren't necessarily like uniform high walls and good locations to keep someone out. This wasn't built to withstand a siege. Indeed, as you walk through the interior, it very much more suggests a sort of classical manor, something of the sort that is meant to be very inviting to its guests.
Right. Okay.
So, with that, he guides you further and further through the area. As you walk through the hallways, you actually notice various tapestries and paintings um, adorn the halls. There are a mix of depictions, some that suggest more vaguely classical art styles, some elements possibly from like Renaissance era up through the latter half of the last millennia. Um, some depictions are probably even resemble paintings that you would be vaguely familiar with that seem like they might have popular element or they might have elements from uh, artworks that you would be aware of on a like popular basis or just by cultural osmosis alone. Save perhaps for Shira, who uh, is more in the style of Earth exposure, essentially, or Earth culture.
Yeah, I
Although
was gonna ask that. Like,
Do any of these paintings depict people?
they do, there
And
are
are those people human?
pretty much uniformly. There may be some humanoids that appear winged and appear to have wings, or others that appear vaguely humanoid but also have other unusual properties you haven't previously observed in humans, like horns, tails, some that appear to be more of like appear to be practically infants but also have wings, basically depictions of cherubs and whatnot. Um, there are some artworks that actually do depict more modern appearances as well. For example, as you pass near the end of one of the hallways, you would actually see what could be best described as a what looks to be an oil painting of a rendition of Zephram Cochrane's ship, the Phoenix, and its first warp flight.
the earlier pictures, were they Capulets, Habsburgs, were they just random people?
It seemed you can't really peg the specific art styles or whether the paintings are
More the people on the paintings than anything else. Um,
it is a very broad spectrum of different types of art. You maybe don't get anything that's say super modern like possibly I wouldn't expect to see any cans of Campbell's soup or
right.
anything Picasso
But
oriented.
no, but no like strong the overly strong Habsburg jawline or anything like that that
Yeah,
can stand out.
you might see some things like that, but there's not a lot of consistency in terms of that, I
Okay.
suppose.
No theme to it then.
Yes, no broad theme necessarily. This is just the as close as you could get to a theme is depictions of essentially a slightly narrow spectrum of Earth art, meant to essentially it feels like it would be meant to fit the aesthetic. Even the more futuristic depictions, that is to say, the style in which it's done depicts more contemporary events. So you might, for example, see not just the painting of the Phoenix, but you might see something with Zephram Cochrane reaching out hands to a Vulcan, depicting first contact. But all done in that
Yeah.
particular style. It's essentially meant to say, if you were
It's
in a
somebody who who went to IKEA and just bought a whole bunch of really like aesthetic paintings, more or less,
precisely.
along the edges. Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Scan the most detailed facial painting and run that against the Tricorders database of missing officers from the ship and enlisted. Any matches facially?
That's an interesting role, or rather, an interesting notion there. Um, I will give you that, like you do try to match things up. Um, it doesn't necessarily pull anything that you would recognize, however.
Woo, she looks relieved.
Yeah. Clever thought, though.
Um,
I only wish the GM were that clever.
that's a neat plot idea. How is Tussaud while he's guiding us through the corridors?
Well, he seems to be moving along at a fairly relaxed, sauntering pace. I dare say he's just guiding you through and probably turning back to make a little bit of idle chit chat, although he's mostly been deferential to all of you. And,
Uh, Sharp will speak up and say, "This is extremely lovely art set you have here. Very refined work."
I'm glad you enjoy it. I do aim to please here, and we want everyone to feel as uh, invited as possible. Indeed, it was very much the case with the crew of the Crozier. They seem to be happy here.
No, I wish I can understand some of these paintings. I am sure they have some history to this place or your own familiarity. My mother was a historian, and I think she would love these sort of demonstrations you have here.
Oh, what history did she study?
Uh, More towards the 20th century, but she does have a bit of a hobby towards 15th through 19th century Europe.
You must tell me everything.
I certainly will try. He
And
gives a very diplomatic smile.
yep. And what of the rest of you? What do all of you know histories, or what else do you what else have you done in the past?
I know history of Earth rock and roll from the 1970s through the eugenics war really well. Really well. She kind of gives an awkward smile.
He will also take a peek to the to those and to the others among you. Yes, first going over to Commander Patel, which refresh my memory. Do you usually like carry a notebook or something of the sort on you?
Yeah, he's always got like whenever he's on an away mission, he's always got like a nice handmade leather bound journal that he when he has time will like take sketches in and do the whole naturalist thing.
I see. That is interesting material here. He says, observing the. I imagine he gets in just a little closer than for comfort. Not quite like he isn't right up against you, but he gets very slightly into your personal space bubble as he notices the leather book.
I think Patel wouldn't notice that like as being weird. Like it just wouldn't even register for him. He would open up his book and sort of flip through some of the pages and show off some of his work.
Oh my, these these are quite interesting. I must commit them to memory, he says, just looking through the book. Um, and these are all things you've encountered before.
Well, yeah, most of it's from Earth since I've not been away from Earth for very long. But here you can see, and I flip to the last page, a quick sketch that I did of one of the sheep outside.
Ah, yes, the I'm glad that you like glad that you like them. The herds are good. They are um well, I I I must admit I don't have the word to describe them. How would you describe those sheep?
Earth-like, I suppose.
He blinks for a moment and just ponders the notion. Earth-like. Oh, very well. I'm glad they meet to your approval. Um, and finally, he looks over to both the doctor. He looks over in the direction of the doctor and Lieutenant Shira. He looks past you, Shira. Not paying as much mind to the person in the EV suit. Oh, and you certainly have interesting things that you must know or brought with you. What? Please do tell me.
No, sorry, mate, not really. I'm not an Earth fella. Um,
You're not Earth-like.
well, I'm not from Earth. I'll come from a place called Vega.
He he
Don't you've heard of it?
just blinks for a moment. Vega. How interesting. You must tell me about the animals and the history there.
Honestly, I gotta say, I didn't pay much attention to the. Like, I mean, we've got a little bit of native fauna that's different, I guess, but I spent most of my time more in the built-up city areas, and
Oh.
the whole place is like 50 years old tops, so we don't have much in the way of history.
Oh. Well, I'm sure other things can be learned. He, after listening to you, Dr. Lambeth, he'll give a brief look to you, Shira, and just turn around. Well, we can talk more about these things over a nice meal.
No,
I had been hoping that the crew of the Crozier would come back and enjoy a meal, but I've not seen them in a bit. But you are welcome to it. It remains fresh here. Uh, he will guide you down through the halls. As you leave the corridor, you start getting into parts of the manor that have much higher topped ceilings. The walls go from the sort of stony castle aesthetic to more of like something more that you would expect out of a very old mansion. Very pristinely painted surfaces, some with like frescoes, others. I would say that there's a lot of like blues and sort of ornate signs of like columns and what have you that are kind of against the wall. If you're familiar with the sort of texturing the concrete texturing you might see outside of houses, I believe stucco would be the phrase for it. You get kind of an impression of that. But there's some larger doors that stretch nearly to the top of the high ceiling. I would say it goes up about 3/4 of the way. Um, he moves once again to open a door for you. Yes, well, you are of course you are welcome to enjoy a meal with all of us, and well, if there were more of us at this point. Unfortunately, it is just just you for now until I can figure out what happened. Um,
well, perhaps you can. We've told you a bit about ourselves. I would love to know more about you,
oh,
Mr. Tussaud.
well, Tussaud guides you into the manor hall as in a pause before he speaks. Um, a very quick look around will showcase a series of tables spread along. For lack of a better term, I would call the area you enter essentially an area with a very long, like several very long sets of tables, a uh, a vaulting rooftop that extends to the second level with great glass windows allowing for additional light, candles permeating that as well to supplement what light is coming in through there. Um, Again, various types of generic IKEA art placed over the area. The some of the tables are empty but laid out with appropriate silverware. Otherwise, there are some that are just positively festooned with dishes and plates of all manner of foods. And very well arranged, very well plated foods. Most prominently, I would say it features, I'd say, objects you'd expect to find out of a classically depicted cornucopia. So, just massive like bushels of grapes, other sort of fruit that have been artfully arranged in various bowls and platters. Uh, just massive loaves of bread, vegetables, and various sort of color palettes, and signs of grilled meats essentially that seem to have been already sliced up. And as you enter the chamber, for those not in the EV suit, um, the aromatic combination manages to hit you in different waves, but each one very effectively brings out the full array of scents with the foods. Just about for anyone's taste, there is something laid out that would get your mouth watering just a little bit.
So we did get inoculated to stipe or to shunt or stifle our pleasure centers a bit, so we're not affected by anything compulsory. So it is like a weird sensation right now, or like where it hits us, but not as well as it probably should, or what?
So I'm not going to say if you had gone without that this was going to be the cartoon scenario where the collective like steam or smoke venturing off of these
Sure.
becomes the luring hand that guides you by the nose and levitates you over to the food dishes. Um, it is just something that it hits. It's like, oh man, this is actually this seems like it's quite delicious. I'd say Romanov it has the most unique resonance for you because this is going to that value, or at least to paraphrase part of your value, Tussaud's idea of a meal is indeed a banquet.
True, true. That is, I think it's Starfleet, but this is Starfleet service, and it is a banquet. So, every away team can be a banquet. Weren't we warned about the food, or we were concerned about not eating anything?
There was
Yeah.
indeed some concern from. There was at least the possibility of some sort of risk that you might have considered.
I think the captain's log kept talking about how the food was so great or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, and the gray water observation that you conducted suggested that there were very trace elements in the days after some of the away team members returned from the planet. There were trace elements of complex chemical compounds which could signify something possibly addictive. So,
Got it.
Perhaps we
oh,
want to run a scan on the food.
I'll scan it, very politely under the table.
yeah. Any of you that wish to may do so. I would say this is either reason and science or reason and, well, I think science is probably the most applicable role for this. I might have said medicine, but I think that that's just the better match. Um,
Yeah, I think Dr. Lambeth is kind of just going to push food around on his plate until
I was going
someone
to
gives the
ask.
go ahead.
Sorry.
I scan.
I was going to ask. I know somebody very important to me that would definitely know how to maneuver in this diplomatic fashion to both take part but not eat at all. Would I know any details on how to do that or try to mimic her in such a fashion? Have I seen her do it before?
I'm I am sure that you have at some point. Okay, so it looks like across the board we are getting um, let's see. Romanov and Sharp rolled with reason and engine.
I think those are for different roles.
Those are for different roles. That is correct.
Yeah.
Uh,
What roles would you like us to do?
for a moment, I was looking at the roles you did and forgot earlier that I'd asked you for reason engineering and reason command separately, and I thought, are they trying to roll those to
No.
scan the banquet here? But no, that would be quite silly. The GM just needs to find a way to break up all of these reason rolls. But that said, Mr. Patel, with a roll of 2 successes, I would be able to tell you that what you are detecting from this food is that it is, by all accounts, it seems to be very close to um, essentially the dishes as they might have been prepared on Earth or by humans. The animal and plant compounds from which they were derived certainly seem to match that as near as your sensors can tell. I think that without more in-depth without more in-depth facilities, you would probably need. This would honestly probably take some lab analysis to discern for certain, but there seems to be reasonable signs of like something more interesting chemically going on.
Can
Some of that
I? Go ahead.
Some of that at least suggests possibly like an enriched mineral content.
Can I create an advantage and say that I brought with me like some kind of like an airtight sample collection bag or something that I
That
can covertly like drop a muffin into or something?
that would be perfectly acceptable. I will ask you for 2 momentum, and you can have that advantage is yours.
Cool. If that's fine with everybody else, I'll spend the 2 because we have 5. So
Yeah, it's a good idea.
then I will drop a blueberry muffin into very very casually and discreetly into like a sample collection bag and seal it.
Yes.
Is there any sort of role I should make in terms of making sure that I don't eat anything,
Well,
but not lose face?
so just to check, or rather, I should preface by saying, Tussaud, as he lets you in, will turn about and say, "Well, would you like me to fix you plates, or you can help yourselves? The crew of the Crozier preferred to pick based on their preferences, but I don't mind helping you however you wish."
Uh, I would be very thankful, but how would that person maneuver this? GM, would I ask him to, or would I do it myself?
Hmm. Well, um, I am honestly not certain here. I will give you at least that your impression of Tussaud does suggest that if you asked him to do it, that he would fix the plate for you, and yeah, he is he seems like an unfailingly polite gentleman, at least in your personal interactions here.
I
But
thank you very much, but I think I have it.
uh,
Um, and I will thumb very discreetly behind my back, in that cell phone kind of way to the tricorder and say, "Follow my lead," in text to everybody. And I will grab a plate if I can and just get small servings of everything that seems just enough to make the plate look full, but not really.
Oh,
well, if I had made you roll for that and conduct and you had scored a complication, I might have imposed the narrative complication that it came out to follow my leap.
You could make me roll if you like.
I'm not going to make you roll.
Okay.
Anyway, so how about the rest of you? Would you want Tussaud to just bring you some sort of plate? Would you prefer to get something yourselves? Are you abstaining?
I'll follow the captain's lead and sort of grab a couple little things and shuffle them around my plate creatively.
Ditto.
Yeah.
I'll do the
Likewise.
same.
Shira, what about you? Or
I'll abstain in this case.
mm,
Hard to get food through helmet.
yes. So the once you have arranged your plates, take your seat. Tuso will produce will go to from one of the other tables. He will produce a couple of bottles. One appears actually to be more of a metallic jug, but a very pristine, shiny one, and the other appears to be a dark green bottle with some sort of still darker liquid sloshing around in it. Do you have a preference towards water or the spirits of your world?
I am. We are unfortunately currently on duty, so I am sad to say, but only water, please, for all of us.
Oh, very well. He pours into essentially fine crystal that is before you, um, fine crystal goblets that is. He pours what appears to be like just perfectly clear, uh, yeah, perfectly clear water from the metallic jug, and once each of you, including one at the place where Eula is sitting, he sets those aside. Mm, that was the reaction of the crew of the Crozier initially as well.
Was it? She smiles.
Yes, yes. There's a common thing amongst those of you from Earth, the need for duty.
Well, certainly it's a respectable goal to maintain and uphold, I would think.
Certainly,
I
certainly.
mean, you said at first. I'm going to assume that means that they were not on
Well,
duty, sort of,
well,
later
event
on.
after a time here, they accepted my invitation to become guests here, and I many of them came down, and they came to enjoy the weather and the food, and they were all uh, quite happy for a time.
For
For
a
a
time.
time, we say
Well,
simultaneously.
Yeah.
well, I never observed them being unhappy, but the problem is now I can't find them.
When was the last time you saw them?
I don't know, to be honest. He
Well,
looks up into space.
perhaps you can recollect the last time you talked to him. The
Oh,
most moment you best remember, she says. By the way, every time she's about, she will maneuver in which every time that he talks, she's like fishing around with her fork as if she's about to eat something, but will speak as if she got interrupted at a thought, and thus does not take a bite. But it looks like she's eating.
hmm. Oh. Tussaud will not observe this too closely as he
Yeah.
tries to recall the exact information. Oh, I do not remember the exact day or time. It
Is
was.
that unusual? Is that unusual for you? You can usually recall exact dates and times.
I. I don't actually know, he says, slightly wistful. I just. I recall they were looking for something. They were. They had been. And, they well, they were still quite happy and enjoying a pleasant meal in the hall at one point after some had toured about the grounds, but they were trying to focus, but they couldn't quite grasp it. They agreed that after they finished their dessert, they were going to move about and look for. I don't remember what they were looking for. He says.
Do you,
Tussaud looks kind of genuinely concerned.
do you
Well,
think?
I gave them, of course, I told them if I could help them, then I would, but so long as they kept within the boundaries set.
well, perhaps instead of thinking about such worrying thoughts, focus on you for a brief moment. You certainly have a lovely home. I wish to know more about you, Mr. Tussaud.
Oh, I'm here to serve.
Yes.
Who do you serve?
He looks to you again, Shira, and just there's a very mild, quizzical expression on his face. I I suppose I serve you. Any guest.
When did you first make a home here?
I can't remember a time I haven't been here.
You were
You have.
born here? You got
Tussaud,
parents?
Tussaud kind of looks again. Like, interesting. I can't say I remember that. They've just been here.
Do you have? Is there a master of this home who sits above you?
Oh, I I couldn't say. I just keep the grounds here. Um, if anything, I try to be as deferential to my guests as possible. Uh, I only have very simple rules here, and so
You're an
they.
incredible host.
Oh, I thank you. The feedback is always helpful.
Yeah, if you have any forms, I'll fill them out. Um,
She got that earns a small smile from the gear captain. Um,
do you think it's possible somebody has influenced you to forget the what happened to the crew that
Oh,
were investigating parents of?
who would make me forget them? I remember all of the crew. I remember Captain Ross quite vividly.
Except you don't remember the last time you saw them, so I'm putting this up as a warner that you may have been tampered with.
Who,
Do you
that's
think that's
quite
possible?
the assumption. She looks
Oh,
over
it
at
is. It
Mr.
is
Amnon.
an out there assumption, but I thought I would field it since he cannot remember his last
he
interaction with them.
he kind of he looks a little bit concerned at this. Why would any of the crew of the Crozier want to tamper with me?
Well, you are indeed in luck. We do have a doctor here, Dr. Lambeth. Perhaps it might not be anything so coerce, but perhaps instead just simply stress or an illness. If you don't mind my doctor examining you very briefly.
Oh, I I feel perfectly fine.
Well,
Oh,
I'm
but
sure you know how. Go ahead.
I'm not performing poorly, am I? Or is there something here not to your
Well,
liking?
no, you're doing a great job. It's just things
I,
like memory loss can often be symptoms of deeper issues
but I
that it's important to try and root out before they become too much of a problem.
but I
Um,
remember
It
all
would
of the
be
crew.
it would be improper if the guests aren't also worried about the host, and you have shown signs of being concerned about something. I would like to ensure that you are as equally happy as we are.
Hmm.
And you can't serve your guests unless you know that, there's not an issue that you haven't been tampered with.
I I do not particularly. I I don't know. I'm very. He kind of thinks for a moment. I will go and make. Let me go and make sure that everything is well. I must
Well,
check around the
as I said,
grounds and be absolutely
sir,
certain.
sir, we do have a doctor here. It'd be a simple examination, nothing more.
Yeah, it'll only take a few minutes. If there's any issues, I can let you know. If there's not, I can give you a clean bill of health, and you can be on your way.
And you don't even need to leave us, because it would be improper for a host to step away, wouldn't it?
Oh, I suppose you are right. Well, who is your doctor? Is it? Is it?
That'll be me.
Oh, so you do know interesting things then. What do you know?
Oh, bits and pieces. I've worked quite a while as a doctor, and before that as a doctor's assistant. So I've got, yeah, whatever you need to know about the human body, I can tell you it.
Perhaps you
Um,
can demonstrate, Dr. Lambeth.
yeah,
your
actually, that's a good
skills.
idea. Oh, do you mind if I use this? It would say pulling out a tricorder and just
Go right ahead.
scan and stuff. So what? Yeah, what do I need to roll for scanning?
This will be a reason and medicine task. The difficulty of this task will be 5.
Holy shit. Okay. That is a lot.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how much momentum have we got?
I
No.
believe that you currently have 3.
3.
However, it seems as though
Somebody
Commander
ejected.
Romanov is out of the roll 20. Brian, you may want to double check that when you get the chance.
I think we lost Brian.
Oh dear. See him in the Discord. He may have had to go AFK for a moment.
No. I'm here. I just shut my mic off. I didn't want you guys hearing a squeaking chair.
That's
Oh.
fine. And actually, come to think of it, now I'm not seeing Dr. Lambeth in the roll 20 either.
Yep. I'm just reloading it.
Okay.
Shit.
Refreshing it.
Yes. Everybody not in the roll 20, reload your roll 20s. There be
I've
rolls
been
about.
like that TNG episode where everyone starts disappearing from Dr. Crusher's life.
Yes. Damn it, you caught the plot. I've been going so long without this. Now I need to toss it out, substitute in a new one. Craig, you are the bane of my existence. I'm so
Sorry.
glad you're here. Wouldn't have
So
wanted it
my
any other way. But yes, Doctor, as soon as your roll 20 is back up and running, the
yeah,
roll is Reason and Medicine.
my Wi-Fi is being a bit dodgy.
Would you
If
like me to roll for you?
yeah, I
I
was
can.
going to suggest that. What
Oh,
as a group do we? Because we're going to need
You're going to need
5
a
successes.
determination, because that's 2 successes automatically.
I don't think I'll have any. Oh yeah, I've got to check what my
Your
folks
determination
as well.
reloads every session.
Hmm.
Unless you're a veteran, and then you can have a roll to see if it reloads.
I
Yeah,
do see
I don't
one
think
of
of
your
any.
values that would seem most appropriate for this. If you don't recall them offhand, I will.
Yeah, I should have kept a copy somewhere other than Roll20.
I have relayed
Ah,
via Discord. If you think that appropriate to the circumstance, you may choose to invoke that value. Just
which gives 2 successes, did you say?
Yeah,
yes.
that gives you automatic 2 successes, and then
Okay.
we can use our 3 momentum to add 2 more dice for you.
Yeah, okay, then that gets us up to 4 dice. I don't think I've got any like relevant focuses.
I don't
Because
really
they're all
see
like,
anything on your sheet.
yeah, they're all fix problems with people rather than figure out what the problems are.
Would
Yes.
a
Um
Would an assist make
So-
sense?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone can assist, but if
Mm.
not, I think I just spend the 3 momentum, get 4 dice, and roll.
Yeah, since it's been particularly pitched as the doctor conducting a medical scan
Yeah,
here,
correct.
I don't know that there's necessarily an appropriate assist at this point. A good question though. And if you had something to pitch to me as far as a logical assist, I will always hear you out.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No.
So I think we'll just spend the 3 momentum.
I do have something, a way I might be able to assist him. I might be able to give him some tricorder settings that would give him maybe a little bit, give him a little bit more variety of data to look at. Is that possible?
Um, I don't think so necessarily. It's a good pitch. However, I think that Dr. Lambeth has enough experience with the medical scanner that he has a good range of settings here.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So
Yeah.
I'll burn a determination then for I need to make the most of the life I was given value. And yeah.
All right.
Do you mind rolling the dice for me?
Not at all, not at all. So, for anyone coming into the game today unfamiliar with the Modifius system, I would actually be very surprised to see you here today. Welcome to this new game that you've arrived in. But it is a 2d20 system where essentially the dice rolls are rolled as a target, basically a target score between two different stats. In this case, the attribute of reason and the discipline of medicine,
Ooh.
which you have scored 3 successes on the roll, and then supplemented by invoking that value, that fundamental belief in your character to access the point of determination, and having elected to take the perfect opportunity option with that determination spend, that gives you the 2 automatic successes, or the critical success essentially added to it. So that does indeed encompass a roll of 5. So from your analysis, Doctor, the first results that you get suggest that Mr. Tussaud here is indeed a perfectly healthy human male. That is unsatisfying to you at first, and as you focus the readings, particularly looking for, bearing in mind everything that you've said, you realize that his life signs are almost too perfect. Indeed, he seems by all rights healthier than a man of his age ought to be. There are higher levels of like or his vitals are quite remarkable in terms of how high they are. There's every suggestion of a of high nutrient and mineral levels in his bloodstream that would suggest that he is very well cared for and that he has not suffered, contrary to the aesthetic or the affectation of what he shows off. There is no suggestion of any ailments of age or indeed any signs of degradation that would come over years of development. Or for someone that seems to be of a more advanced age, there's nothing there that you could detect. You would have to probably, in order to verify that further, you'd need a blood sample and to actually scan to the level of his DNA and determine whether the telomeres have contracted at all. But if all the other readings are suggest what they are, then this man has essentially lived in a sort of stasis, biologically speaking, yet one that somehow, essentially, he is not subject to any sort of atrophy or true aging. It is indeed a question of whether he has truly ever aged a day in his life. It also occurs to you that in addition to the biological readings, there is a very subtle adjustment in the biosignature reading, the sort of electrical current that, or the electrical readings that make up part of the biosignature that you can detect. Seems to move on it seems to operate in a slightly different fashion. You ponder it for quite an extensive period of time until it occurs to you, going back to the crewman you found aboard the Crozier and the readings that you found there. It occurs to you that this man may have active nanoprobes in his system as well.
Okay, so he's was like the other crewmates that was able to study like healthy like he was? Like, is there something that was in? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is this like a state of like not aging and like generally being healthy, something that was induced in him, or something that he's always had?
Without
I don't
a
know if you'll work that out.
without a full comparison, I mean, without knowing more of Tussaud's medical history or background or having even a frame of reference, it's impossible to say, or rather, it's difficult to say with just the medical scan. I would think that there are ways to determine that, say with the blood sample and like assessing his age based on like essentially with DNA there are part of the structure, as I understand it, when it gets copied over and new cells are built, there are basically um, some of the instructions that come with that in a cell are referred to as telomeres. Basically, they help provide the basis to build new DNA for new cells. Um, as we age, those telomeres shrink down further and further. That's basically part of the aging process where our bodies are eventually less able to like the telomeres are sometimes errors or not all of it pops up necessarily, and so eventually you expect to see some signs of that like it that influences the aging process basically. um, that would be a way to give you at least kind of give you a sense of where this gentleman is in his development, although again like without having more of a background, it's still not 100%. However, it's basically there's no sign that this man, as far as you can tell, has ever truly aged or whether he was anything before this.
Okay. He's gonna look down at the results with a kind of like look of puzzlement and and
Am I
okay.
to your liking, Doctor?
No, you're all good. I'm gonna need a few more minutes to have a look through this properly.
Okay.
Just like no, nothing major. Just want to have a quick check or something.
Uh,
Captain, do you mind going over with me in another room? I just think I might need your expertise.
Oh, if you want some privacy, then I can certainly allow you to do that. All this conversation, you've barely touched your food.
Well, certainly you
So
are very
the conversation has been just amazing.
Oh, I'm
indeed.
I'm so very glad you've enjoyed it. Um, I will leave you all to your discussion, to meal, merriment. Please help yourselves of anything you so wish. I will just advise, do not stray too far from the grounds, as there are the possibility of some dangers or hazards out there, and I would not want you to come under any threat. Also, the west wing of the manor is presently off limits.
I understand. How best can we politely summon you again,
Oh,
Mr. Tussaud?
Oh, just call out and I will try to make it to you as quickly as I can.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll be sure to find you once we've fully analysed this data.
Certainly, certainly, but outside of the restrictions, please enjoy the run of the grounds. There are obviously places. There are places throughout the manor to explore. There are individual rooms that can be made ready should you wish to rest, and you are of course welcome to enjoy the grounds, see the flowers and garden arrangements. There are also some very Earth-like, he says, gesturing over to, I believe it was, uh, I believe it was Patel that first used the phrase.
Yep.
There's some very
Um,
Earth-like fauna around that you can observe and interact with.
I have one question though, Mr. Tussaud. Is there other caretakers such as yourself upon the premises?
Oh, I don't remember anyone else here. It's
I
just
see.
been me and the crew of the Crozier, and now you.
Well,
And I'm sorry. You are also not from the Crozier, are you?
we are not.
Oh, well, what are you from?
We are from the USS Aegis. 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 A- GM.
Aegis.
Aegis. Thank you. It is one of those words that is incredibly hard to pronounce. We're from the USS Aegis.
Hmm. Well, you and your however many more of your crew from the Aegis are also welcome to come down here. So, by all means, uh, feel free to let them visit when you wish. But I must leave you to your time here. So, just please holler out if you need anything.
Of course. Thank you so much.
But
If you excuse us.
certainly, certainly, and he will move out to another door that will allow him to exit the room, leaving the five of you alone. It is a small point, but some of you do take notice of the unusual use of you, the you prefix before the starship Aegis, which is the proper designation.
Um, she will just leave the smile on until she's sure Tussaud is very well gone before the just a faceless expression returns and says, "All right, helmet's on."
All right.
She'll put on her helmet and switch over to the EVA comms. Um, and look over to the doctor. Do you find something?
More that I found nothing really. He's perfectly healthy, and I mean perfectly healthy. Like not a thing wrong with him. Without a blood sample or something like that, I couldn't tell you more. Um, it looks like he might have or have had some traces of the nanite stuff that some of the crew had. Looks like he's got that effect on him. Um, Basically, the
When
question is, what do you want me to do with him? Because I can lie to him and tell him that he's got some horrible, terrible issue, and until he gets him to give me a blood sample so I can get some more info. But
when you say perfectly healthy, do you mean that not even any blemishes or markers of the typical come with growing up, as it were?
that's something I'd have to check with the GM. Like, does he have like, yeah, just that, like the kind of, I guess just looking at his appearance and stuff.
But I mean
Is
more
there
like
just
out of character, more like flu or measles or something, things that leave markers in you, if you have them, if you had them rather, that
I
just
think
comes
there's
with
definitely no
aging and
signs
being
of
exposed.
that other than like nanite stuff, right?
I would say that going to the point, he basically seems perfectly healthy. He has affectations of being like an older Earth male, but like they're anything that would say be a result of underlying disease doesn't from the scan have any sign of a corresponding illness anywhere in there. Some of it probably would take at least like in order to completely verify that, you'd probably need blood samples to do so. Just the available evidence with your scanner doesn't suggest anything.
All right. Thoughts, opinions. She looks over to the rest of the group.
I hold up my vacuum sealed bag of blueberry muffin and say, there is definitely something here with the food, Captain, but I can't specify what it is without having access to the ship's scanners. It's not much, but it's something, I suppose.
I did find it odd also that Lieutenant Shira was almost treated as a non-existent. He even looked surprised when you spoke up.
Oh, someone else noticed that. Good. I was wondering if he was having an issue with me being Andorian, but yes, it's weird.
Might be. Seems more directed towards humans and Earthers in particular, but it
Yes,
could also be the visor and helmet itself.
could be the case. Yes.
All right.
Also concerned. He said the crew of the Crozier went somewhere, so they didn't return to their ship. Where they gone?
I have a unusual question.
Miss Romanov.
GM, can I access the computers from down here to run a search or send the data down here?
Um, it might be possible to transmit something with the energy field in the atmosphere, which is uh, both keeping out the radiation, the excessive X-ray and rather extreme like ultraviolet stuff that irradiates the rest of the planet, and that otherwise maintains the gravity field. There might be some risk of signal degradation.
Uh, do we have detailed data files on the missing crew? Like we have access to their data files? I know
Uh,
the ship is in bad condition, but Starfleet often keeps data files on all their ships about citizens and that, although this is pre to that era. The question
We
is, do we have detailed information on the crew?
we also ripped off a lot of information from their own computer too.
That's right. I did steal every hard drive I could possibly find. So, what I want to search for is anybody who was listed as coming first have a significant interest in medieval history and have any similar pictures in their personal files of similar castles or things.
I think
She's wondering if somebody's mind was scanned and that this environment was then created based on that.
so. Going back in my notes, I remember something about the first officer was like one of the first ones down here, and he never reported back in after that very first away mission.
Okay,
So,
then
do we have info on the XO of the Crozier?
hmm, let me pull that up here.
It may be worth comparing it to our host.
Okay. So there is indeed there is a data file on one. Looks like Lieutenant Commander Martin Sullivan, who was indeed he was actually this was the science officer of the ship who, among other areas, he did have a side sort of specialization, or he did have some specialization with anthropology, although much of his work was committed to stellar sciences and essentially he was a man that was tasked with planetary surveys, and the case where he had the opportunity to, the anthropology was kind of a hobby of his, but there would have indeed been a track sometime in the there's probably something that would suggest prior interest in Earth history.
You're gonna bring up this theory to the captain, Brian?
Yeah, she's thinking about that. What if this guy's brain was scanned and this whole place was built out of that because they're trying to interact, whatever the intelligence here, on one level or another, positive or negative, is trying to interact with humans. Therefore, the whole model was built for humans, like a computer program. We brought an odd element it did not know how to react to, which was the Andorian.
Quite imaginative, but given the evidence we see so far, it does lead towards something of that inclination a little bit.
Right, I believe evidence points in the direction. This place was constructed out of all local material. It's designed to look exactly like a castle, and it's very, very well constructed. Um, so again,
Does the record indicate is Martin Sullivan from the British Isles by chance? Because you mentioned this was being like a British style castle or manor house.
I would say that. Let me double check. Yeah, it
To be
does.
fair, a lot of history is also very goddamn British oriented for
Yeah.
Americans.
Well, okay, so I found it. The background was actually not England proper. He was actually more New England. I'd say
Still makes
somewhere
sense.
in the yeah, definitely in what would have constituted the old upper uh, northeast region of the old United States, whatever form it exists in. It's all part of Earth now, but I'm sure that some digging back through records would suggest that he had that any anthropology related work seemed that would indicate he had a strong fascination with Earth medieval history.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All
Up
right.
through not even just medieval history, I would say, but probably going up through um, the early oh, what am I thinking? Up through maybe the early 19th century was what it would be. Um, I will even go so far as to say that in terms of like the one paper that might have stuck out with some of the work he did on the matter, he might have wrote something as pertains to I believe that at this point, A.E. Hodgkin's parallel development theory or parallel planetary development theory is being at least talked about, or if I'm remembering the canon correctly, that is still that is actually present. It might be because he wrote of it at least as early as 2093. So there was some discussion of like how much there might have been a footnote reference or something either um, like possibly critical of it, uh, suggesting that there are like the styles might what might manifest in terms of parallel developments might only the differences would only matter insofar as it would be say a sort of surface affectation or needs based on the environment as opposed to like a strict sort of every culture necessarily follows this line.
All right. Here's how we're going to play this. She looks over to her current away team. Patel, Lambeth in particular, ask our lovely hosts that perhaps you wish to be absolutely certain that you play nice and see if maybe you can get a blood sample. If not, do not press it too hard. Patel, try to get as many other samples as you can of this place on the way out, and make way back to the ship to do some tests. If you find any information, let the rest of us know. Um, Romanov, Shira, the two of you and I are going to look about this place a little more carefully and try to see if we can peek into the West Wing without breaking our etiquette, and find anything else that seems of interest.
Maybe we can look through one of the windows.
Perhaps. We also want to look for any other signs of the Crozier's crew, which I'm guessing is either in the West Wing or other areas. Hopefully,
Yeah.
they didn't take the more depressing route and decide to have exploration about the rest of the planet. She says the frown.
Yeah. We've also got the issue of, like, didn't they empty all their antimatter stores? So that's got to be somewhere on the planet, right?
Likely to continue powering the hab of this place, habitation.
Okay.
That's my theory, but certainly, if you, well, we already made those scans, or as many scans as we could. So if you can take those samples and study further of how they've
Yeah.
developed this place.
If you want, I can tell him he's like, because at the moment all I can tell him is that he's fine. I can try and persuade him to get a blood sample for that. If you want him distracted, I can maybe fudge the numbers a bit and tell him that maybe he's got some risk of some horrible condition that might kill him at some point soon.
I wouldn't go that drastic, nor, and I'm also concerned about any other means of showing our hand.
All right,
Um,
stick to the simple, basic questions and the honest truth. All right.
He seems a simple programmed being, only capable of doing what his job is, which is to be a host.
there might be protocols or indoctrinations that we're not aware of, imperatives that we're not aware of.
I was thinking of as well, so we need to be very cautious not to invoke those.
We are guests, so let's keep ourselves to the limit of that. Any other suggestions or concerns? She looks at the rest of the group. Good. All right. I like to hear something back within the hour, she says to Patel.
Of course.
She'll pull out her communicator and call our shuttle back.
Yep. Over the comm line, Ensign Conley will call back. This is Shuttlepod Alpha. Go ahead.
Conley, you're going to return two of our crewmates back to the ship before making make way back here.
Okay, I've kept the engine in a standby mode, so it'd be ready to go. Only complication I might see is, so we have some sheep, Captain.
I am aware. How's that a concern?
Oh well, they're coming up to say hello, and I mean they're not talking sheep. Let me be absolutely clear there. But they are closer, and well, I couldn't resist giving one a couple scritches here. They're really friendly.
Away from the comm, she'll just give a very nonplussed look as she like kind of rubs her hand or tries to rub her hand through the helmet, but then realizes she has a helmet on. Dr. Lambeth, can you examine to make sure that our friend isn't infected?
Oh, I hope I'm not
No,
infected with.
that's
Oh,
away that's away from the comms.
I gotcha.
You got it. I'll
Thank
make
you.
that priority one.
Thank you. She'll switch back to the comms. Connolly, Patel, and Dr. Lambeth will help you negotiate the sheep away from the shuttle.
Oh,
Try to resist petting the mutton.
oh, okay. I can't believe you eat sheep. Oh boy. And I don't know if
Captain
Connolly
out.
told.
She just clicks it off.
Captain, permission to take a sheep back to the ship with us? It'll be under the strictest of quarantine. It could be useful in determining what the nature is of life on this planet.
If there are sheep pellets in the shuttle, you're cleaning it up. She says. She just gestures you to get out.
And you'll have to goo the sheep in the decam room. So
I'm so sorry, everyone. Useful. Useful.
No.
Oh, there
that
are
was bad.
there are bad puns, and the GM is the worst.
He said sheepishly.
I can airlock all of you except for the GM. All right. Yeah, she just gestures like after she makes a warning about the pellet, she just gestures you to go.
All right, I head back to the shuttle pod with the doctor, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so Lambeth and Patel are headed back to the ship to make sure that Conley is not afflicted by the sheep in some way, that he is not inadvertently taken in nanoprobes by osmosis or something else or other addictive compounds. While the go ahead.
Can I grab some stuff on the way out? Because the captain asked me to get samples. Like, I don't know,
You
random
may
candlestick goes in the bag. Like
you
little
Grass,
souvenirs.
tree
you may
branch.
and you may indulge your pack rat tendency here
Fantastic.
if you have one. Yes. So
Um,
please
I
describe
know
what.
that Patel. I know that Patel is a pack rat, right?
I think he I wouldn't call him a hoarder or anything, but he will definitely, if he finds something interesting, he will take it.
Yeah, she will say as you leave. I think I wouldn't know you enough. She's as you leave, she'll say, "Oh, and Patel, strictly for examination."
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. I To be fair, I may have done a bit more with the wording. I suppose if one truly had that tendency, then Patel might have gone to try and reach off and take a painting down or something.
The thought had occurred to me, but I can't fit a painting in like my little messenger bag that I carry with me.
Yes.
So it's going to be like I'm going to take a glass or a cup off the table and like a candlestick and little stuff like that, and then obviously biological samples from outside.
Of course. um, I will ask you for one roll as you go about this. I'm going to call it an insight and science roll, and we'll resolve what happens with it. I'm going to say this is a difficulty 2 task, but we will resolve it once we actually cut ahead to when you get to the shuttle pod here.
Are you going to steal the sheep?
I'm definitely going to try to steal a sheep.
Yep. Let's see. Since it sounds like, well, first, just to clarify, are the two of you going to also head off to interact with Tussaud before you go to Conley, or are you shifting priorities around to go to Conley first?
I think we're shifting priorities just to Conley.
Okay. And then for the remaining crew, just to clarify, are you going to search separately for um, the 4 crew members of the Crozier try to access the West Wing, are the 3 of you operating together?
The captain would like us to operate together, because if people are disappearing, probably not best to separate individuals.
All right, then in that case, I think that this, since this is a pretty clear split of the party, I am going to invoke the house rule and ask everybody to. That is to say, actually, I'm going to ask for the 2 most senior officers in the group, which would be Colonel Sharp and Lieutenant Commander Patel, to both roll me a single D20. Uh, this is essentially just a small initiative type roll that I like to do. And since we are playing in a Star Trek Adventures system, the lowest roll typically gets initiative. So, Patel, I will allow you to. Uh, I'll actually give you the choice here. Would you like to take your scene and the doctor's scene first, or would you like to defer to the captain's group and let them try to move about the castle?
I think the captain gave me a timeline, so I want to stick to the timeline, and I will go first.
All right. So, um, strategically picking items on your way out as you make your way from the dining hall back out um, through the tall wooden doors that would allow you to exit the castle. You are able to find your way back outside. So I imagine, probably a bit of silverware here, another bit of food before you left. Um, there are flower bushes, of course, out there, so it would be very easy to extract one of those and set that aside in a bag that would be free of contamination.
Yep, I do so. Sort of like the biological stuff is like a general cross section of like animal and plant matter that would make sense. But the other stuff that he's grabbing from the house is more just sort of not random. Like it makes some logic to his weird mind, but maybe the doctor is sort of like, why are you taking that candlestick? What's up with that umbrella that you just grabbed?
It's not even raining. Um, Doctor, as Commander Patel is grabbing these things, do you make an attempt to grab anything? Is there anything that you would say or do during this time on your way back to the shuttlecraft?
I think actually I'll keep an eye out for anything like loose hairs or something like that that might have got dropped on things, in case he's got something I can grab some DNA from.
Something from Tussaud as well.
Yeah.
That is actually a very good specification there, and because of that, I'm going to allow you to also roll a. I gave Patel the option of rolling an insight in science. I'm going to allow you to assist with insight and medicine here.
You might need to roll that for me again.
Yes, I understand.
Um,
Uh,
what was the roll again for? Just so I know for focuses, like if any of them are relevant.
So essentially, you are looking for, like in particular, you are looking for biological matter to pick up samples, and there would be a pattern that you would start to notice.
Xenobiology.
Xenobiology would apply, and I considered xenobotany briefly, but it would have some slight crossover, I think. But xenobiology definitely applies most closely here. Doctor, I don't think that anything would apply for your assist, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ouch
and
on the.
yes, there is one success, so if Dr. Lambeth can score one as well, then you do still at least get you do succeed at the task, but there will be a complication that we'll have to discuss. So let's see what Patel gets. Oh, 0. Okay. So, you pick up samples along the way. Uh, that partial success, I'm going to say you don't generally seem to find as much animal matter, but you're busy acquiring bits of the plant life, so you don't take as much notice of that. Now, with regard to the complication, let me ask you what you would like to do with that. There's no momentum in the pool at present, so you have the option of either uh, giving the GM threat, which I would impose the cost of 2 threat here, or you can allow for a narrative complication.
I really want the sheep, but my narrative complication suggestion would be that the sheep doesn't fit on the shuttle pod.
Oh, I wouldn't do that to you.
But the sheep is going to be so
The
cute.
sheep could also be a plague with a narrative complication. Just do a threat, I think.
Yeah, give the threat. Yeah.
I will take
You'd
2.
have all the sheep trying to cram into the shuttle.
I have plans for the sheep.
Oh dear. Well, so yeah, you continue to make your way into the area with the shuttle pod, which let's go ahead and just set that out here. Move you out to the fields. Contrary to the green background, or rather, contrary to the black background there, the shuttle pod is just sort of parked. Wings actually in the closed position. As you make your way up, you do indeed see Mr. Conley's hand sticking out from the side hatch as he is petting a nearby sheep. Oh, hey Doc, hey Commander.
Oh,
Ensign.
I made a friend.
is it just the one sheep?
Uh, I mean, some of the others were friendly here, but this is the only one that actually stayed around right now.
Mr.
Okay, well
Conley.
that's
Oh, go ahead.
that's
I,
only one sheep we need to get rid of before you can take off. Then
okay. I mean, Mr. Woolsworth here, I should have known it was never gonna last, he says, looking to the sheep as he strokes its head a little bit. Just kind of looks out vacantly.
Patel looks down to the sheep and then looks back up at the ensign and back to the sheep, back to the ensign. Well, how would Mr. Woolsworth like to join us on a little trip?
Oh boy, no fooling there, Commander.
Just don't tell the captain, ensign.
Conley will be positively gleeful at the idea, and it's like, oh man, Mr. Woolsworth, we're gonna go and take a look at. We're gonna go and you're gonna see something positively, literally out of this world.
Safe to say this sheep is going to boldly go where no sheep has gone before.
Yeah. Although, I think that didn't they like put some on freighters and like send them off to some of the colonies? I don't know about Vega, he says, looking to you, Doctor, as the GM spends 4 threat. But that it may not be the case that Vega is necessarily an option, but I know that there's at least got to be some worlds where livestock got, and all of you feel slightly jarred as the ground trembles around you. Mr. Woolsworth is going to run out into the field. The other sheep are going to start scattering in the general direction of the trees. They will make it out much further. Come on back, Mr. Woolsworth. Uh, you guys don't happen to know what that shaking is? As you both feel a steady like thumping sound under you.
Is it like shit's getting real thumping sound? Like, do we have to get out, or is it just sort of curious? What's the urgency of it?
It starts curious, but it feels like it's growing. You would almost say that you would expect some sort of seismic activity, but there's something not quite coherent to that. I'll tell you what, though. I believe Mr. Patel has a geological focus as well.
Yep.
If you want to take a quick scan, this one I'm going to say is reason and security.
Oof.
Nice. Let's get a one.
All right. Well, that will be enough to tell you, as all of these sheep have made it through the tree line and have made it away. Mr. Woolsworth is out in the distance. You detect that the disruptions don't seem to be correlated with any type of seismic activity, but appear much more localized near the field. And you realize with increasing trepidation that the source of it is in fact a life reading of some sort.
Oh, good old Earth-like sandworms coming in.
As you say, as you ponder that notion, the ground is torn from beneath the sheep as a great claw grabs hold of Mr. Woolsworth and dangles him in the air. The sheep just like staying absolutely silent despite it being in its last moments. And I think that at this point, we should alter around just to see what's happening concurrently. Cutting back to the manor as this is happening.
So, do sheep taste good?
When properly seasoned.
Ah, really? Do we have any sheep meat on board the Aegis?
Something you can ask the chef, I suppose. I've never quite asked yet.
I'll make that a go.
Well, if you mind me asking, what do Andorians typically enjoy when it comes to meat?
I mean, there's a variety. It's a kind of nice stew, very very hot kind of spices. Usually made from glacial fish.
Ah, right, Piscinian.
Yep.
Now, for most of us, it's Earthers. It's more mammalian and ground based of sorts. Sometimes fowl, but most of it's pig, pig, sheep, cow. As we're doing this, she's just examining this place, examining the castle, trying to understand its sort of layout a bit, and trying to move eventually outside and towards the west wing.
And the West Wing, it's just a wing of the castle. It's fully connected. It's not a separate structure.
Indeed so. There are probably doors that are closed off right now that would connect down there. There'd be like some parts of the manor to essentially access that, but they are sort of narrower corridors. There is a garden area that is enclosed by the structure that you could actually get a look at the West Wing from.
Then that's where we're going. And I'm not going to scan the West Wing, but the areas around the West Wing to see if it's constructed differently to accommodate some other use.
Okay. Well, since you may want momentum at some point, I will give you a reason
Pretty
and
nice.
engineering task with a difficulty of 1 to roll.
I'm no expert on castles, but I do know when designs change, and that tells you something about the purpose of the thing.
Okay.
Okay, that's the lens by which I'm looking at this. And
All right.
hold on, let me roll. I got knocked out. Okay. Reason engineering, and diff complication range is 1. And
That is one success, which means you will succeed. However, that is also a complication there. Would you like to give the GM threat, or would you prefer to accept a narrative complication?
We are not rolling great today. We got those super good success, and then everything else has been kind of meh.
Brian, what would you prefer?
this has got to be a group call. Do we want to accept threat or do we want to accept a narrative application?
Just give him threat.
He loves it when we give him threat.
I do.
Yeah, but it would like we're kind of needling things at the moment.
How do you keep pushing buttons until something happens, right, sir?
That's true enough. It's up to you. You want to do
Threat. I'll take it as threat because the narrative complication could hit me while I'm trying to analyze the report. You see what it tells me about the rest of the design.
Okay. Well, from your analysis of the West Wing, there doesn't seem to be any discernible difference from the rest of the compound, as it were, the manor. The materials seem very much the same. The architecture appears to be in similar arrangement. You would guess based on the readings of the area, it seems like the rooms are a bit smaller than some of the broader sweeping halls that are around. You would guess the function of this is actually primarily residential. Essentially, there would be rooms for people to stay in, other facilities to take care of them.
Enough to accommodate the crew.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Enough to accommodate the crew of the we found.
Certainly of the Crozier, and probably more. Certainly with the sum total of the manor's rooms, it could probably accommodate the crew of the Aegis.
I will explain this to the captain who's nearby me.
This is more of toward the GM because I'm sorry, I mind blanked, kind of brain fart. Could you repeat that overall? Just that there's more there's plenty of rooms within the manor to do so, or just
the West Wing is the West Wing of the manor was certainly enough to accommodate. It appears to be primarily residential in nature, and it seems like it would have the rooms to at least have accommodated the room of the Crozier, probably more than that even. The manor as a whole could easily, I think, accommodate the crew of the Aegis in sum total, but not the West Wing on its own. That is more what I had meant to say.
But the crew of the Cruiser could be housed in that area, correct? The numbers match up.
I mean, it would make sense from those readings, or rather, based on the layout, that would make sense. It could have been a place that they stayed.
I don't say this out loud. I merely show Colonel Sharp, Captain Sharp, the readouts. With the data.
Yeah, she'll just nod and look over to Shira. If you had to guess, how best could we peek in, Miss Shira?
It's a castle, right? So, are there any vines and plants growing up near the near the west wing, which we could possibly climb up and look through windows and stuff?
Let's see. I think this constitutes infiltration strategy here, so I will ask you for an insight and security roll, please.
Insight and security.
And I will call this difficulty of 1.
I will assist with my strategy with my strategy skills.
Okay. Actually, I think I'm going to expend. No. I will give you that up. I will limit it to a difficulty 1, and Captain, I will allow you to assist.
Sweet.
Okay. I don't think any of my focuses really apply at this.
Okay.
Maybe except survival.
I mean, survival works. I think that's up to
I
GM.
will accept survival.
Okay, cool. I'll do bold security. So you take a point of
Tasty threat.
hasty threat. Yes. I'll get an extra dice. So let's re-roll one of those zeros.
Okay.
That's better.
2 successes. And then a 3rd success from Colonel Sharp there. So, with that, you first get 2 momentum back. Since we have Romanov back, I can deal the momentum out. Let me just... Alright, so 2 momentum to you. Um, you notice that there are indeed some vine structures that would move up, that would allow you to move up the structure some, even near some of the windows, um, even a couple that are open. There would be an issue trying to get up in the EV suits, however. You are uncertain whether they could properly, they seem fairly sturdy and well established. However, the weight of the EV suit may pose a complication even for one of you going up. So you can attempt to infiltrate that way. It will not be without risk, and that risk will come in the form of increased complication range by threat spend.
Right. Well, she says, looking over at the vines, and starts taking off her EV suit. I think I heard it. She spoke a little louder. I'm pretty sure. Uh, what's out of character? What's the rank of Shira?
Lieutenant?
I'm pretty sure, Lieutenant, that as dexterous as you can be, those vines seem quite a bit much. She kind of gives you
I
a
used to
wink.
climb ice walls as a kid, sir.
Well, certainly I see it as a challenge. Perhaps you can demonstrate then, Lieutenant.
Pleasure.
You gonna take off your EV suit?
Well, everyone does, sir. Yeah, I'll take off the EV suit at this point to climb up.
The weather, I'm sure, is perfectly pleasant for these earthers, but it feels quite balmy to you, Shira.
I'll loosen the jacket a bit. Okay. Right. Ones aren't too different from ice, right? She'll start climbing.
Okay,
A bit
everybody.
of an ecological difference, but we'll see. Do you want me to stand right here so I can catch you, Lieutenant? She kind of gets a smile and a grin.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so attempting one at a time then. I will ask each of you to give me well, I guess Shira, since you are going first, I will ask you to give me a, what is it? Fitness and security with a difficulty of 2. Since you've gone without the EV suit, I will not spend threat to impose a complication.
Difficulty of 2. Again, does my survival focus apply here?
Survival, I think, would apply to this roll.
Okay. I'll do bold security to get an extra dice.
Okay.
There you
3
go.
successes, so you will get 1 more momentum, and you will definitely succeed at this. You make your way climbing up the structure, and as you make your way towards one of the open windows, you take it as you make it near the top, you find that the room appears to be a fairly lavish bedroom type setup. Done in a very archaic style. You can guess probably that it is meant to match with the Earth aesthetic that everything else has essentially been paired to. Um, you notice with it something else fairly interesting, though. This room is not empty.
Hmm.
You actually see what appears to be a human male standing in the middle of the room. He wears the same uniform. He wears the same uniform jumpsuit, the the same deep bluish purple as the rest of the crew of the crew of the Aegis does. You can make out from one shoulder the gold stripe of command, and at least signs of a mission patch, although they are different from yours. The angle that you are coming in actually has basically your back facing to him. Um,
Hmm.
but you can otherwise discern he appears to be, um, much as Shran would describe him, one of the pink skins, and with a very shortly cut hair, in sort of the salt and pepper, like white and black kind of alteration. So the beginnings of a graying here. From what you recall, there that does it. What features you can make out does somewhat mesh with the description of one Captain Ross from the U.S. Well, from the Starship Cruiser.
Uh, does Ross is just standing completely still?
Yep, he is just standing in place, facing towards the door that would allow him that would lead into the rest of the part of the building.
Hmm. And how far away is he from me?
Once you enter the window, I would say he's within like 3 or 4 meters.
I'll just casually loosen the phase pistol a little bit.
You gonna notify the captain?
I'll say Captain Ross.
The man does not turn to acknowledge you.
I'm covering the entrance to the courtyard while they're doing this.
Yeah, I'm gonna climb up myself.
I found Captain Ross. I peer
Alright,
out the window.
she'll just nod. Coming up.
He's not responding. I'll give some distance so he can't just reach out and grab me and just walk around.
Yeah, I'm gonna parkour up there with the vines. So
Fitness and security, please.
Yep, I do not have any focuses towards that, which is weird. You know why, Zach?
Yep.
Oh, there we
Well,
go.
that's still 2 successes, so that will get you up there. Just no momentum.
I'll walk around to see Ross. Try and see Ross's face.
His face appears perfectly normal, like that is to say, there are no signs of any obvious injury or anything, but it
I'll
does seem rather vacant, as if he's just staring forward into space.
I'll take out whatever
Don't.
primitive Starfleet scanning device they have and start scanning.
Wow. Excuse you.
Reason and science difficulty 1.
What was his first
Oh,
name?
sorry, reason and science.
Yep.
Oh,
What was his first name? GM?
I believe the first name was Clark Ross. Or Clark, that is. So Captain Clark
Yeah.
Ross.
She'll say Captain. Mr. Ross.
reason and science. You might as well just have Eula slap him around the face. Frankly, reason is 7 and science is 1. So
Go
don't
for it.
expect anything from this roll. Oh, got 1.
Well, you are
He's definitely human.
you are scanning signs that, for all intents and purposes, this does appear to be the proper assemblage of meat and bone and other appropriate tissue to suggest that it is technically the stuff that humans are made out of. Um, there is a
Not seen anything unusual on the scan, sir.
He'll just give you a side glance, like, really? But then look back and kind of
It's
wave her hand.
probably
and
more of a doctor thing.
She'll wave her hand and say, Clark, hey. Snap her fingers in front of his eyes.
completely unresponsive.
I'll go and investigate the rest of the room. Are there any personal effects around?
There is nothing of the sort. It just appears to be a fairly nice bed, chest of drawers, a trunk.
Does the
at
bed
the
look
foot of
sleep-tin?
It appears that the sheets are perfectly made, the pillows all fluffed up, just waiting, begging for use.
She will reach out towards Shira and say, tricorder. And I'm going to try it, if I can.
Okay. Reason and science again?
Yep. Which I have a decent for that. Complication 1 or 2?
Just leave it at 1 for now.
Okay. If I can, for the group, can I take 1 momentum to add a die? Single die?
Yeah, go for it.
Well,
damn it.
Definitely human, isn't he?
Definitely human.
I will say one thing that you notice in the analysis here. There are, and Shira, you would catch this too with a bit more look at your scanner. While there are some basic neurological impulses at work here, like you can tell this man has a working nervous system. The bioelectric part of the signature seems mostly intact, such that your scanner can pick it up. You're not detecting a lot of brain activity.
Then how is he standing?
As you
I'm
ask
gonna go
that,
to. I was gonna go to the door in the bedroom.
okay. As you do that, your communicator chirps.
She'll flinch a little bit, but then cover it with her hand and pull it open, dimming the volume down as low as possible.
That's good because the moment you open it, you're met with a loud scream that you quickly pull down. It's that moment when you turn on some music and you realize you left the volume up for something super quiet. So it's like a momentary ear splitting bit of nonsense before it comes down to a more reasonable volume. Initially, it's just some incoherent screams and calls from the background, where you start making out, Captain, they got Woolsworth. It's out here. We need backup right away.
Right.
I remember a
Where are you?
crewman
Are you on the
called
shuttle?
Woolsworth.
Are you at the shuttle?
We're at the shuttle. I don't know if it's worth taking off. It's moving towards the shuttle.
Get on the shuttle and at least move 500 meters. Go. We'll be there in a moment. She says with a hush whisper, and then she'll just like gesture to Shira. Come on.
Okay.
He's not going anywhere.
No. Yeah. Back out the
And
window, climb down the vines.
we'll glide down the vines like awesome people.
Yes, like awesome heroes.
We do make sure to close the window though, so it looks impeccable before.
Indeed, indeed. So, the window actually was
I'm on
open for the record.
the ground. I'm on the ground. I'm ready to move ahead of them once we get moving.
I gotcha. Well, so let us, as you begin your rapid movement towards them, we cut back to where we left off with the other half of the crew as a terrible pincer-like vice of a claw grasps this thing, grasps the sheep, the now late Mr. Woolsworth, and coming up from rising from the earth below, tunnels out this this bizarre gangly eight-limbed creature of sorts. It well exceeds the size of the shuttlecraft, to be sure. And with its grasp of Woolsworth here, the most unusual mouth-like arrangement, it begins chomping into the creature. It's difficult to discern exactly what what sensory organs it might have. It's hard to distinguish anything from the considerable, grayish, unusually textured flesh. You'd guess it's vaguely hard and chitinous from the look of it. Um, and it is covered quite a bit in what seems to be very fine dirt that doesn't quite dissipate from it. Um, but after several rapid sort of munches, I will say that it is at least distracted for the turn, as it takes a moment to just rapidly finish off Woolsworth. Um, At which point Conley just reflexively pulls out the communicator and starts signaling the rest of the landing party. For your part, Mr. Patel, Dr. Lambeth, what are you doing?
I mean, I guess my instinct would be to dive into the shuttle and emergency takeoff.
Yeah, I think that's also the plan.
And the captain's order too would come over. I guess in parallel to that would be coming over the communicator.
Indeed, indeed. So, you all make your way into the shuttlecraft as the beast finishes off the sheep. Mr. Conley is going to start is beginning to start up the engines, and let us. I think that as Conley starts up the engines here, I'm going to.
Ooh, you have 5 threat, don't you? Oh no.
I do. So I'm going to start off by spending 1 threat in order to increase the complication range as we roll for takeoff. Okay, checklist. We can skip most of the checklist. We can get out of here. I gotta focus on this small craft specifically, so we should all be good. But the complication range goes up to 2. So he is going to get the engine started, and the craft is going to start elevating. It is not quite going to move fast enough, however, which will give the creature an opportunity to make a move here. So let me go back. Oh boy, I forgot I gave him these things.
Oh dear.
I'm I think that uh, it'd still be in close enough range to where it can use its claws. So I'm going to have it run up and go for a melee. So it will attempt to grapple the shuttle. I will spend one threat to give it an additional die here. Oh dear, that's a complication with the one success there.
So
Um,
one, it's a complication against itself, right?
yes, the complication does indeed move against it here. Uh,
Maybe the engines from the ship shuttle burn it or something.
I am willing to accept that. So it initially tries to grab a little too close to the exhaust, and it does recoil slightly and take a bit of stress. Let's call that. I think from the impulse engine, I'd be willing to give it. Let's call it 3 challenge dice is fair. That could potentially cause an injury for it. So let's see here. 3 and
Oof.
that will deal 1 point of stress, which it can actually resist, unfortunately. So it will take no damage from that, and it has the shuttle in its grasp. Ugh. Oh, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Let me fire up the maneuvering thruster, sir. And Conley's going to try and make another go in order to break free of the ship, or break free of the grasp. I will contest this against its fitness, and if somebody would like to roll for the shuttle pod can assist with con and engines.
I got it.
Ooh. Yeah, that is 3 successes from Conley there. While the shuttle pod won't help, that is going to be a high threshold. I'll spend another threat for the creature, see if it can maintain its grasp. So set this to fitness and security. Oh no, that is the second complication in a row. So it is going to lose. It's going to lose that hold, and it's going to. I guess I'll let it take another.
The shuttle quote unquote headbutts it.
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. Either that or the when Conley fires up the thrusters, it deals some additional scorching there, which would do another inflict another 3 stress there. That'll resist 2 of that, but I'm willing to, as a kind GM, I'm willing to say that firing up a hot impulse engine or thruster like that probably going to induce a little bit more of the. I would go so far as to give it a vicious quality, so I will allow that effect that was rolled to represent 2 points of stress. And yes, you will manage to deal damage to it, but you will all make. With that, Conley will break out from the grasp, and the shuttle pod will be able to move up. So let's first make sure all of these tokens are, say that you're off screen and off to the side here to reflect that you are in the shuttle pod. The shuttle pod itself has begun to take off and move out of range. And Mr. Woolsworth is gone.
Poor Mr. Woolsworth.
Yes. So
His wall had unfortunately been dyed red just the day before.
Conley looks to the Conley looks at the like navigational sensors. Things on the move. I trying to discern its direction now, and I'm going to give it a little fluff roll here. Oh, not that low actually. I think it's trying to burrow back underground. The hell was that?
Can I pop off a quick scan of that thing
You may.
with the shuttle?
Reason and science.
Uh,
And the shuttle pod may
something-
assist with sensors and science. We'll call this difficulty of 2.
Xenobiology?
Xenobiology definitely applies.
Could spend a point of momentum for an extra dice.
Yeah, I would do that.
All right, so go ahead and give us that look. 3 successes. And then can one of you roll for the shuttle pod there? Someone else?
Yeah, I can't roll right now.
Yeah.
I'll roll. What role was it?
Sensors and science, please.
Con science. Boop.
Okay. Well, that is still 3 successes there, which will exceed the threshold and net you back 1 more momentum.
Woo.
Patel, based on your sensor scan, it appears to be some sort of vaguely crustacean creature. It probably, based on what you're seeing here from the biological readouts and its makeup, such that you can get from it, this might be the one properly native creature that survives in some form here on HD 85512B. It appears that it is, by nature, a creature that can survive very deep underground, or you would guess spends most of its existence there. It has very sort of limited visual perceptive capabilities, living most of its life in total darkness. It seems as though between that and a very well fortified anatomy, it appears to be fairly resilient to whatever radiation might actually impact it, and it's otherwise very well evolved for living in a deep subterranean system. But it is, of course, capable of burrowing up to this level, and it's very well equipped, obviously, for some sort of predation. Um, Obviously, it suggests a very different ecosystem such that it might exist. But you were about to ask something.
Yeah, the scan wouldn't have revealed anything about, like, was its attack triggered by something, or did it just seem to be random?
Near as you could tell, this was probably just a random attack, or rather the strike of a predator, as it were.
Got it. I'm gonna reach out to the console and just open up a comm frequency to the captain.
We're on our way. How's the situation?
Sir, we're currently airborne. Just fended off an attack from some very large subterranean creature. Shuttle pod seems to be in order. We haven't been able to do any damage control or anything like that, but we are down one sheep for the herd.
I don't care about the sheep. Just if the shuttle's fine, every crew's accounted for in one piece.
I look around the cabin. Everybody good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I think we're okay. Can't believe it. Man, it's a good thing the GM forgot to roll damage for that.
I'd like to take an action while the captain is talking and they're still up by the window. And they're.
I imagine we already slid down. Like
I know.
yeah.
Okay. I was going to try to do something, but I didn't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So as they were coming down, I wanted to pop a scan while they were still at the window. If there's any kind of fields we can't detect, perhaps they broke that field and I can get some energetic samples of what might be going on in the room. I don't know what they saw, but they got really interested in it. So I want to snapshot it if I can.
I'll allow you a roll for momentum purposes. I'll call this a reason and science roll.
Okay.
Yeah. Just simple difficulty 1.
Okay.
Okay. With the expanded range there, so that is 1 success, you do succeed. Um, you don't detect any signs of any sort of change to an energy field of any sort. Which, while that slightly dashes your hopes, by widening the gradient of the field, or the range of the field, you do detect some signs of what you would guess to be something biological. At this range, there's something that might discern something close to a life form, but it isn't quite right, or it's something that without some of the adjustments you made, you might not have properly detected it from that range.
Save all that data, capture everything, including the settings, and back it up.
Yep. Yeah. From here, where is the shuttle pod going?
I guess if the channel's still open, I would ask the captain, would you like us to come for you, or should we resume our mission to get back to the ship? Or should I drop off the doctor?
Is the life form heading towards the castle?
He seems to have disappeared back underground, and we've lost track of it.
I'm picking up another life form. Is the distance and the direction congruent with what they just described? That's the life form I'm picking up?
No. I was the reading that you got was it suggested something that might be a life form that was in the room with them.
Ah, okay, got it.
It didn't quite conform to what you would expect, but it read somewhat as human or close. This is basically something that had happened prior to. I would think at this point they'd climbed down and they have started running. They're probably outside
Yeah.
of the manor at this point, but still.
Yeah, which we're slowing down.
I'm keeping up with them. Once I've got that scan, I'm right on their tail.
Mm.
All right.
Sure, I got a scan of something. It's saved. We'll analyze it later.
Send it over to Patel's tricorder. Patel, just make your way back to the ship. Continue as planned. We'll just keep an eye out. And when you come back, bring a few phase rifles just to be on the safe side.
Patel, I'm sending you the data that I've captured now for your analysis. Are you ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
And
What
I'll
do you
watch
want me
it.
to roll to send it to him?
Since you're only transmitting since you are only transmitting it to the shuttle pod, which is still in atmosphere with you, I don't think that it would actually require a task to do that. It might have been a bigger issue if you're trying to send it to the ship from your tricorder.
Got it.
And the doctor? And I look back to the doctor as I ask that question in the comms.
He will continue with you. Oh, did you get the scans or anything else, Doctor? Ben? Ben Silgan? You're muted, my friend.
Sorry, muted. Yep. Yeah, I think I still need to check out the ensign. Do his medical exam.
Right. Continue the exam, quarantine if necessary.
Medical
Yeah,
exam. Am I okay? What happened to
Well,
me?
hopefully. Oh, just in case the sheep did anything to you.
Oh,
Just
Mr.
relax,
Ellsworth
Ensign.
would never.
Well, it might not have been intentional.
just give me the info as soon as you can, Patel.
Roger that.
Copy that. Shuttlepod Alpha out.
We
We
really
need
got to come up with better names for these shuttle pods.
Yeah, the captain says that she closed. We really need to think of better names for the shuttle pods. All right. She takes a deep breath. I guess now we got to be more careful of outside the castle.
As you say this, a couple sheep will run by you.
We should get back in the castle then.
All right, let's make our way back over to our competition, shall we?
Yes.
Captain,
Yes,
Captain,
Mr.
you
Romanov.
were not, if my scan was correct, you were not alone in that room.
There was also a individual there. Yes, we are aware.
No. A possible additional individual. They'll have to analyze the scans. I couldn't tell because I couldn't see what was going on. I just snapped the scan while you guys were up.
Should I just look to Shira, like glance over to Shira, like did you like the kind of look of like did you see anything?
No, just Ross.
That
Yeah.
was what I was referring to.
Oh, it was Ross I got a scan of.
Yeah.
Okay, one other individual. Okay. Then that was Ross, and I got a scan of him. It's interesting.
Is it? Anything you can better understand?
Does it explain why he seems to be in a bit of a comatose state?
Standing, no less.
It could. It registered as human, but what was the other adjectives you used to describe that, GM? And
Well, as I was saying, you didn't get quite as detailed a sensor readout from this, but the impression that you had was that there was something very slightly off, or some slightly different bioelectric readings. Basically, what you would come to realize with greater detail from Romanov, comparing it with Shira and Sharp's readouts, is that there was a certain lack of neurological activity on the part of the captain.
All right. This is
Do we
disconcerting.
want to go back inside and explore further?
Probably best until we get more information from the ship. Romanov, how's good is your medical field or science field rather?
I'm pretty good at sciences. I'm obviously physical sciences out of character. Let me tell you. My science is 2. I'm average there.
That's one better than Eulers.
Yeah. All right. Shira, you keep watch. Me and Romanov will examine the next window we can find.
Yes, sir.
We will with that vine, and we'll try to find like the next available. Like, can we climb up to the roof, or with that vine, or what?
You'd probably fall just a little bit short.
Okay.
There,
Um,
there is at least one more window that you could probably reach. It would be a little bit of a stretch too. It's far enough away from the window that it would be a little bit of a reach in order to like try to grapple on. You might need to try and hopefully find like a grip elsewhere on the stone. It's a bit more risky, essentially.
I am going to find a curtain, a long curtain. Um,
From inside the manor.
yeah, and then get a candelabra, something heavy.
Could
Oh,
use the bed sheets and from the captain's room,
Not a bad
or
idea.
perhaps there's tapestries around.
Let's be careful on entering any room because we've already been
The
set that.
let's keep to the curtain as the tapestries are valuable and would be quite improper. I'm gonna find the ugliest, cheapest looking candelabra, and then just get a curtain.
okay. It seems like we're trying to jury rig a grappling hook system of some sort.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask for a daring and engineering roll with
Here,
a difficulty
I
of
can
3.
I can help with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
You make it. I will help you out. I have gambling. This is a gamble, isn't it?
Oh, that's that is really bad. That's a really bad pitch. I'll take it.
Okay, I'm gonna roll for Romanov. She's a colonial girl from Alpha Centauri. She knows how to jury rig stuff.
Yeah, I'll make you make it, and then I'm gonna help him. His assistant.
Okay, 2 successes.
All right, that's 2 successes from Romanov. We need one more.
God damn it! Nope, that's wrong one. What was it?
It was daring and engineering, which let me take a look at that score there. That's
It is about the same. Yeah, it's
okay.
the same.
I will allow you to roll with the proper attribute and discipline and see if RN Jesus is kinder to you.
Apparently
oh,
so.
she's very good.
All right, so that is 2 more successes for a grand total of 4. So you meet the difficulty threshold, and then you gain one additional you gain a momentum for the additional success. So I will assign that. Uh, Thankfully, Sharp, the years of training that you have had somewhere along the way definitely included knots. So you find that you're able to help. You find that you are readily able to string together the curtains as need be. It probably takes a few for your purposes. Uh, Romanov, you manage to work out the best way to effectively or hook the curtain onto the candelabra. You test it to make sure too that it is structurally sound, as you wouldn't want to have it buckle or give way. You didn't want to go super cheap on that.
Right. It's got to be useful for climbing.
Yes,
What I did was I cut the curtain into strips and then wound them to create the rope, and then I let her do her trick.
sounds
So,
good.
and then I tighten everything section by section, make sure the rope is secure, and when it's ready, I'll go. It's as good as it gets, sir.
Yep. Just
Thank you.
for the japes, as you are setting this up, Tussaud will walk by. Oh, uh, did you not like the curtains?
Unfortunately, the curtains were already quite rugged to the start. I don't know who did this, but we thought if you wouldn't mind, since they were already ruined, that we might use them for more athletic means.
Oh,
We don't often get to run around and enjoy ourselves more physically, and this makes for a good makeshift rope.
oh, okay. If you need more rope, if you want some proper rope, I can find some for you. I know where to find rope.
Surely that would be most excellent. Thank you.
Yes, I will go look. I'm so sorry about the curtains. Who would have done
Now,
such a
I am
thing?
sorry that someone had the indignity to ruin such things. That is quite most unkind. I I'm really sorry about your unfortunate upholstery.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, yes, I will replace them right away. I will replace them with better curtains and rope, should you need it. Uh, do you like to do other athletics? Uh, could I build
Some
athletic structures for you?
at the moment it's not needed. I think we can make do as it is, but thank you very much.
Oh, very well, very well. With that, a very slightly distraught Tussaud is going to make his way down the hallway in a little bit of a hurry, off to look for rope and curtains.
Let's move.
No, better hurry. She drops her diplomatic face again.
All right.
Nice one, Skipper, she says with a smile. And she hands you all the stuff. It's ready.
Excellent. Let's go. Let's go climbing.
Yep. So with this, I will ask you for a daring and security roll in
I
order
could
to.
definitely do that.
What's that? Or
I can definitely do that.
actually,
Though,
I'm going to
well,
ask for control instead to throw it up. Or
also good. How
actually,
good's your what? Go ahead.
I actually should clarify this. Are you aiming to throw this from the ground level? Was the idea to try and climb and then toss it over so as to bridge the remaining distance?
You know what? Yeah, it's probably to bridge the remaining distance just so we're on the top. To start with. That's probably not a bad idea.
I mean, it slightly changes things. I think the control roll is more difficult from the ground, but the complication range would remain the same. Whereas if you're already partially climbed up, there's the fitness task beforehand, and then a slightly lower difficulty control roll, but with complications basically coming into play, or
Yeah.
chance of them.
I'm still remembering people's names. Nope, wrong one. There you
Craig would be
go.
Shira, and
Yeah,
Brian would be
Craig.
Romanov.
Craig, how's your control number?
My control is 10.
All right, you want to climb up there and get the hook on to the roof?
Yeah, sure.
Because you have survival. I think that'd be more appropriate than anything I have.
Okay.
And I'm going to cover the entrance just in case he returns. Or really, I'll intercept him in the hallway.
Just politely tell him that the rope is excellent and we don't need anything further.
Okay.
All right, so Craig, if you wish to climb up the vine near the other window first, you may do that.
Yep.
That would be security and fitness with a difficulty of 2.
2, survival.
Survival definitely applies. Yep.
Yep, I'll do bold security for the extra dice.
I will accept the threat graciously. 3 successes, so I take a threat and you take a momentum.
Hey.
I'm going to put that threat immediately back into this next task as you now closer to the window have to go for a control and security roll in order to get the hook in, or the makeshift grappling hook. The difficulty of the task will be 2, and the complication range will be increased to 2. But
Range
you do have full momentum at this point after the one I add here.
Ooh, nice.
There you go.
Nice, cool. Well, I'll do bold security again and get the extra dice.
Hooray for threat.
Swing the makeshift grapple hook. Yeah.
Yep, that
Nice.
will meet, and that will give you 2 successes. So that's you now have 2 floating momentum as the hook manages to land its way just as you were hoping it would, and it has created a new secure line. I'm willing to say it is long enough that it probably extends down to the bottom of the sort of courtyard area that you are in, or the interior garden. Of course, it could easily do that. Shira, being that you are already up there, you could still have a grasp of part of the rope and basically swing slightly into position, or like use
Yeah,
the
I'll do this. I'll do swing out,
yeah.
making sure that the weight is. It can take the weight of a person properly.
Yep. So you once you give it a few tugs for safety, um, you release the vine and let the rope kind of do its thing with the pushing off with your legs and swinging around, uh, letting yourself sway back towards the wall. The first swing is a bit it's a bit of an overcorrection. It'll send you a bit to say you were climbing up the left side relative to the open window. You will initially kind of catch yourself a little bit right of center from it, but you eventually correct your approach, and manage to get the rope extend all the way down to where the rest can follow you up now, and you can make your way into the room.
Okay, I'll scrabble inside.
Do you want me to stay on Overwatch down here or come with you?
Actually, I would have liked to switch, if it's fine with my 2 co-players. If Brian and Craig, if your characters can switch around, Shira, keep an eye while Romanov and I climb up to the roof, find a window, and check these people out.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
You want to have Shira outside whilst the other 2 climb?
Yeah, just because our engineer is better at reading scanners than the 2 of us. So apparently,
Makes sense.
Fair enough. So as to simplify things and even allow you to bypass the other tasks that would be necessary to get you up there, you have 2 floating momentum. I would be perfectly fine saying use that to just amend the scene and allow you 2 to climb up while Shira comes back down in order to maintain, or rather, instead of climbing under the window, she climbs down, making sure that it's safe for you.
Yep.
Recommend you pull the rope up behind you, sir. If Tussaud comes back, then you might have questions about the rope leading up to the forbidden window.
I've done my military service, Lieutenant, and I was young before. I know how to sneak out on here and there. She kind of gives a grin and a wink before says, "Come on, Raswanov, let's go."
Okay, she quickly climbs behind you. She looks like a pretty experienced climber.
No. And we scoop up the rope and the hook and make our way, trudging across the roof to find another window.
Why does a part of me see Romanov as like chalking up her hands beforehand, and she's got her own personal rock climbing kit?
Probably. I mean, she's clearly done a lot of crazy climbing in her life, so...
It's like Picard carrying around his saddle everywhere. So you'll never know when you'll need it.
You never know when you'll need it.
Okay. So the two of you make your way up the makeshift grappling hook and rope, and finding yourself in another bedroom. This one is completely empty. No member of the um, no member of the Crozier's crew, inert or otherwise, seems to be present.
I will bring my communicator up and briefly, in small words as possible, just let my head of security know where we are located, um, before cutting off the communicator and just looking around. Is there anything in this room that is in particular in terms of difference, or is it pretty much a
It's
carbon copy?
virtually identical. It is the same style of bedroom. I would say very soft, calming sort of blue walls. I'd say like an eggshell blue, um, with a few paintings up in the area. Seems to be mostly very generic-looking portraits of that would date sometime between the 16th and 19th centuries. Uh, a bed that has been impeccably made, fluffed, and just like is very inviting for any weary soul. The height of comfort, one would say, certainly a lot better compared to anything that you've got aboard the Aegis or other Earth Starfleet ships of this era.
I will. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm immediately beginning to scan the. Is there a body in here? Another crewman?
Oh, it was
I
empty.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you you're not picking up any life readings nearby that remotely correspond to that.
I will make motion toward, like, I approach the door and then motion toward Romanov to scan it.
Are you kind of going on a tactical stance, like you're going to exit the room into another
Yeah.
area?
Yeah.
Okay, well, she just falls into a support position very professionally next to you.
I will grab the pillowcase, empty out the pillow, and then wrap that around my hand, so that way I am not creating fingerprints or leaving skin on the door handle when I open it.
I will say, just based off the passive search you do, there are no signs of any life signs within the immediate vicinity. The door itself is a simple wooden type structure. I'd say a very deep, rich
No,
oak type thing with a glossy finish. The door
no
appears to be a
hidden,
brass handle.
no hidden locks or security sensors or anything else that we cannot see.
Only a brass lock that is controlled from the inside of the room where you are.
Okay, I will very gingerly, with my covered hand, unlock the door and then very slowly pull the knob.
And I'm
And
covering her while she's doing this just in case.
yeah, and then I'm going to peek open the door.
Did we bring sidearms? No. We
Yes,
did?
we did.
You
We
do
did.
have phase pistols, yes.
That's
Yep.
what I thought. So I've got a phase pistol out, and I'm there in case she gets jumped as the door opens.
Yeah, I don't have my face pistol out. I am just, because I don't want, in case of diplomatic issue, I want to make sure that it's not aggressive. But I am still peeking out, just down into the what's outside the door.
Okay. Looking into the corridor, it seems to echo a little bit more still more the sort of classical or late 19th century manor type aesthetic of the hallways.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike this, unlike the other rooms in the part that you have been in, there's no illumination by candlelight. There are just a few sort of windows where essentially where there are small windows where the rooms do not occupy that space, and that allows a very little bit of light in, that and from your own opening of the door. Um, it's still a nice, gentle, carpeted arrangement seems to proceed ahead of you. Um, but yeah, otherwise, it looks as though this place is not actively set up for, or rather, while the rooms themselves are well made and ready for habitation, the corridor does not look like it's been meant to be traversed at present, at least
I
in terms of
will.
the light. Sorry.
Yeah, I wait for a moment to hear if there's any noises of people or commotion before nodding my head and just slipping into the open doorway into the corridor. I'm making sure that my footing is on the is the floor stone or wood?
Um, Beneath the carpeting, you can discern that this is a stone material.
Okay. Um yeah, I'm going to make sure that I'm moving as quietly as I can, more or less.
I'm gonna
Uh,
go ahead and as she steps out, I'm gonna go ahead and sheath the phaser and follow her lead.
Okay.
I'm moving quietly as well. I'm using my unusual training as well.
I motion toward the door for you to hopefully quietly close the door.
I've got a glove on, so I'm gonna just quietly close the door ever so slow.
And it's completely dark, right? More or less
It's
in the
mostly
corridor.
dark. There are only a handful of very small windows that are allowing limited light in. It's probably just enough that you can make out directions of like corners of hallways and at least signs of something that might open up, but
All right.
um, interior
Here's a
rooms are
little
probably going to be dark.
here's a little trick and something I learned as a kid. I'm going to use the pillowcase I have in my hand and put that around the arm light that I have, so it can diffuse the light but still have a little more illumination. Um, and just so we can see a little bit more. Is there anything like on the walls in terms of like still the same painting style of paintings, more or less?
Hmm.
Nothing's really changed. Is the aesthetic from 19th century, 15th, 19th century.
Yeah. As you start making your way down, I will ask you, give me an insight and let's say, hmm, actually, insight and engineering here with this.
Me or
Either one of you.
go ahead, Romanov.
Insight engineering.
Yep.
And I was about to
Oh, I
say, I was
rolled.
going to set the difficulty of the task to 2. You actually also rolled daring. Would insight be
Oh,
higher or lower than that?
let me. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Let me go look here. Hold on.
Because my insight's 8 and my engineering is 1, so I was like, nah.
It would have been an identical. My insight is 9. My engineering is 5. So
Okay, yeah, in that case, this would still be a success. So, for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to say that you managed to score this. As far as the style of paintings and everything, you do very much notice that everything still seems to be identical, at least in terms of the style to the other parts of the manor. Um, yeah, this is more or less a carbon copy of the places you move along. You do find a door past some of the paintings that through a sort of porthole type, not exactly porthole, but a small sort of glass window essentially. Um, it seems to open up a little bit, and I will go ahead and tell you, essentially, it looks to be it looks as though it is a staircase that would take you further up or down the structure.
Hmm.
It's probably like it's actually more of a spiraling type setup. So
Down.
I will bring up the communicator, whisper where we are, and that we are going to make our way down to Shira, to Lieutenant Shira. And gingerly open the door and make our way downstairs.
as you turn the actually, this would be more of as opposed to the brass knob that you had to turn for one of the bedrooms, this would be more of a sort of simple pull handle. Um,
Yeah.
as you move to pull that open, there is sudden illumination from down the stairs, and it gradually picks up.
I
And
will
you're
immediately carry.
confused at first whether it might be a moving source, but you realize you look and notice that there's in fact essentially a candle set ahead of you. At the very tip top of the candle, the wick illuminates of its own volition. And everything.
She'll just look surprised and then just glare at it. Look grumpy.
Yep.
All right.
And as that happens, you hear the distant sound of footfalls coming louder and coming up the stairs. And with that, I think that is where we are. We are actually going to call the session for today. So
Oh,
yeah, we'll leave off on another cliffhanger, and I think that when we come next, we will be able to finish this off. So, for those catching the archive, we hope you enjoyed today's Star Trek adventure. We hope you come back and join us next week for Aegis, and we will leave you off here. So, until then, this is your GM in the Great Barrier signing off.